Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast. Today, we've got part 2 of our episode with Brandon Wood. So buckle up and enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast. We appreciate you joining us today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Season Podcast. We appreciate you joining us. Today, we have another episode of... Let me start that over. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast. Appreciate you joining us. Today, we have part 2 of our conversation with Brandon Wood. Hope you enjoy. All right, so Tyler had to hop off there. Unfortunately, had something come up at the house. But we were talking earlier about our tech stack, and when we were prepping for this call. And so you're going to be running 15 properties. What does your tech stack look like? Have you had to grow your team at all? Can you just kind of give us an insight into your operation?
Yeah. And we talk about 15 properties. That's the goal, again, to kind of get enough revenue to start owning more properties on my own and eventually scale that back to 10 and something more manageable. But 10 better properties, more productive properties. And I think the tech stack I have now has been what I've implemented with my first 2 properties, but will also work for something larger at 15. So when you think about tech stack, obviously the first thing is, Airbnb, VRBO. Do you have direct booking sites, things like that? I'm purely on Airbnb and VRBO. Um, I haven't found the need to get a direct booking site yet. I'm going to try and do that this year, but honestly, I'm beating everybody already without needing to do that. And that's a perfection step for me as opposed to a scale step. So I'm working on the 2 basic OTAs. I connect them to Hospitable. Absolutely love Hospitable. As a former product manager, product strategist, building product, they have an awesome interface. The easiest one to use. I looked at 5 others, the 5 other big ones that everyone else uses. Their messaging automation is fantastic. I've tried some AI messaging systems and they're good, but it's not good enough to beat Hospitable or convince me to add on to that. Their reporting is good enough for me. I always do custom reports for my clients. I don't just do exports and printouts, right? Part of what I offer is a hands-on touch. I'm not scaling too big. I want to give you quality. I want to always be there for you. So everything I do is a little bit more custom, and they have all the data that I can use to provide that custom report that I've got built out in Canva, which is another big piece of the tech stack. It's where you put together your monthly reports, your marketing materials, case studies, all that kind of stuff. QuickBooks for finance. There's a lot of other really cool STR niche finance tools out there, but QuickBooks is simple. It's the gold standard in finance. I use Monday.com for task management. It's very easy to get underwater in all of the different little things you have to do for all of the different properties once you get past 2 or 3 properties. And Mondays really help me stay focused and plan out my days. So I don't think I have 50 tasks to do, and I can prioritize what actually needs to be done today and focus on those things and not accomplish other things that don't matter as much. PriceLabs for revenue management. Big fan of them. I actually do a lot of exporting. I used to do a lot of exporting to Excel and run my own numbers. Again, the finance background, building products and financial analytics has helped me there. Recently outsourced that though. So I'm using Pricing by Mira for my revenue management, which is great. And that goes back to time is money. I was doing really well as a revenue manager myself, making just as much as Pricing by Mira was, but the difference is I was spending way too much time doing it, and now I spend 0 time, and the revenue is still there. It might be up a little bit, and their cost is completely acceptable. It's a very easy, low entry fee, and low subscription cost. It's well worth the time saving. So I would highly recommend pricing by Mira, for that exact reason. Because one of the biggest time sucks in this industry is revenue management. If you're doing it right, they'll do it right, and they'll do it in a way that saves you time so you can focus on other things. Um, for digital guidebooks, I like TouchStay. Again, nice, easy interface. You can categorize your different instructions by property, and you can have different branding. Um, I use RankBreeze a lot to make sure my properties are performing well from a search ranking perspective, which is super important. If you don't know where your placement is on some of these OTAs, you don't know how to properly approach the marketing for the property or the pricing for the property even. So always keeping an eye on that through RankBreeze has been super helpful. For insurance, obviously there's AirCover. Everyone knows AirCover is absolutely terrible. But I use Wavo. A big fan of Wavo. They're a sister company to Proper Insurance, but basically Wavo is incidental insurance. So if you have a guest come and they break something, submit your claim to Wavo and they'll pay it out. It can be anything as big as a couch or as small as a broken glass, as long as it's kind of for that stay incidental. And I've used them to replace, honestly, something as small as one broken glass to like a designer chair that we had in one of our properties. And I've never had any pushback on any of the claims. And it's cheap. They're, $10,000 worth of coverage might be $50 per stay. You charge an admin fee to Airbnb or VRBO, and the guests will pay that $50. So they're paying for their insurance. It's not anything that comes out of my pocket. And it's better for the guests too, because they don't have to pay a security deposit. No one likes security deposits. I don't want to give someone $3,000 of my money and then like maybe or maybe not get it back. I'd rather give you $50, have five or $10,000 in coverage, and be done with it.
So I'm curious, are you giving them the option to do one or the other, or is it just there? It's not optional. It runs in the background, basically.
Yeah, it's frankly not optional. So I add a $50. It's called an admin fee on Airbnb when you go to calendar settings and fees. And it's $50. It's the cost that Wavo charges me. You start to get discounts the longer you're with them and things like that. But it's great, and it just is baked into the price that the guest is paying. And $50 for a 4-day stay generally is fairly negligible. So you're always covered and at no cost, but it's also a good solution for the guest.
So do they have a plugin? Just curious, because I might do this myself. Do they plug in with Hospitable so they're automatically getting all the reservation info? And
Yes,
is it, you don't really touch it until it's time to file a claim when and if that happens?
exactly. So they will hook into Hospitable, and they'll get a list of all your reservations for the properties that you give them access to. At the end of the month, they actually send me a report saying, "Hey, these were the stays that were eligible based off of your payments to us," and I have them on all my properties. It wouldn't make sense to not do them on everything. But so it's basically just a list of all of my reservations that happened that month, and I make sure that list is accurate. It's always been accurate. And then I approve the monthly payment. And if I have a claim, I think they give you a week or two to submit the claim, which is great because sometimes it takes a day or two to get everything sorted. And you just go online, submit a claim. I think you fill out 10 fields and throw in a picture, your name, the property address, the date, the guest name, what happened, and then again, a couple pictures of what you need replaced and the replacement cost. Super simple, takes 10 minutes. And again, never been denied.
That's really cool. Great information. So going back into your tech and your team, are you doing your own bookkeeping?
I do have a bookkeeper. That's a great question. I outsource it, not a full time employee, but I have someone who I really enjoy. She's done a great job. Her name is Dana Denton. She just, we have a meeting every month, and we've set up a process that's nice and automated. So she gets into my QuickBook and she's able to see everything. She's got a platform that is called, used to be called InvestSense. They just changed their name like a week ago, and I can't remember what it is. But she sends me any questions through that, and I just kind of mark what the expense is for, and she goes and categorizes things. And that's been something I frankly refused to do from the beginning. Um, I just this bookkeeping's not my thing. I'd rather run analytics. Um, so she's been great. I highly recommend looking up Dana Denton if you get a chance. She's again one of those things that saves time and frustration for people.
Yeah, it's that's something that I pay somebody else to do as well. It when I took it off my own plate, it's one of those things where I guarantee when you pay a professional, it gets better. They're going to do such a better job. Might even pay for themselves by the time tax time comes.
I think it's a really good point, and I agree with you. I'm thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure that I am on board with that. The first thing you need to get rid of is bookkeeping, because if you don't do it right, you can't take advantage of certain tax benefits. Your numbers look wrong. You get frustrated. If you're not a CPA, or if you're not a professional in the tax industry, just don't. I know another big thing that people ask about is what cleaning platform should I be on. Uh, Frankly, I go on the platform that my preferred cleaners use, and I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm on Breezeway and Turno and Resort Cleaning, just because that's what they use, and the cleaner is more important than the platform. So once you find a good cleaner, work with them, keep them around. I don't think it's worth losing a cleaner over being on a different platform. So I kind of it kind of sucks, but I kind of spread myself across those cleaning platforms, but it's okay, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I would agree with that. I would never want to lose a great cleaner over something as small as having to learn a new platform. I do try to push my cleaners into Turno, but I have used Resort Clean. I would use it again. I've never used Breezeway, but I've always heard good things.
yeah,
And they
I
have to use it a lot more than we do at the end of the day. So
absolutely, and I agree. Turno is probably my favorite of those three, but that is a decision that almost doesn't matter too much
do you,
to me. Yeah. Uh, for marketing, I use StayFi. Obviously, that's a pretty popular tool in the industry as well. Earlier, I mentioned I don't have a direct booking site, so my utilization of that StayFi data that I get uh, has been non-existent, but I've been collecting it for 2 years. And so this year, when I do go out and start looking at direct bookings and repeat booking marketing, I have everything ready to go and I don't have to start from square one. So I started that earlier than I was ready, but it is still going to end up being valuable when I'm ready to go. Um, for property security, which is super important. We talked about Wavo. I consider that part of property security from the insurance side. I use Ring cameras. I have my Ring app and all the different properties, and I've got cameras basically on any outdoor area for each property just to make sure uh, the property's protected, the guests are protected. Uh, I'm in Colorado in the mountains. We've got bears. Like, I've sent videos to guests who are like, "Oh, there's a bear here yesterday. Do you have any videos of it?" And I immediately go, I've got cameras checking my trash can because they'll try and get in your trash can and make a mess, and then the neighbors get pissed off. But you just need to make sure you're protected all throughout that outside. And it's been fun. It's been helpful. It's easy to use. And I use the solar panels, so I don't need to be plugged into a wall. Those work great. Haven't had any issues. I also use Minute or Minute. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but it's Minut. They're decibel meter sensors, but they also detect smoke. They can detect marijuana smoke now, which is awesome. And they also let you know how many people are connected in your property. So they can tell you if you're over capacity, if the guest is bringing in enough people to qualify for a party, and send you notifications around that, which has been helpful as well, right? Not just does noise get high, but before the noise gets there, you can get ahead of it and say, hey, why do you have 20 people connected in my property when it's a 6-person property? And just start that conversation with the guests before things get out of hand. So I highly recommend them as well. They're not expensive. They're sleek. They're easy to hide. So, they're not in anyone's way, but they work really well.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
I came across another thing. You'll probably appreciate this. Just what made me think of it is when people are connected. Have you seen those plugs that will automatically restart your router?
No. What is that?
So it's like a plug that plugs into the wall between your wireless router and the wall. And when it detects that there's not internet, you connect it to Wi-Fi. And when your Wi-Fi loses connectivity, it shuts off for a minute and then turns back on.
That's amazing. I need that.
I know. I don't have any yet, but I'm getting some.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
the nice thing is with StayFi and then your general internet provider, you normally can just reset the router or reset StayFi from their web portal. But when you have to do that, it's already too late. The guest is upset. They've lost their Wi-Fi. If you get something that resets it right away, the guest sits there, they're on their computer or their phone doing something. They just click refresh and it's already there. They're not getting kicked off a video call or a podcast like us.
Right.
So that's
And
great.
and I hate it when the Wi-Fi goes out and I'm not, say you're not there, like, cause say maybe you restart your router, but you need to restart the modem. You can't really touch that without calling the cable company. But sometimes my property would be empty, but I'll just notice that all my cameras are offline or my doorbell won't, or I'm sorry, my lock won't connect.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
if there was a
That's a
guest
good
there, they
point.
might unplug the router and plug it back in because most people know how to do that. But like, it's kind of like this helpless feeling when it won't, when you're not there, you can't get it done. You're like, do you really want to have your cleaner go over there to unplug and plug something in?
And honestly, that's gonna be super helpful for me. You gotta tell me if there's a company you use for this, because 2 of my cabins don't have cell service, so you have to have Wi-Fi. And I make sure the guests know all that beforehand, but if Wi-Fi goes out, you gotta drive 10 minutes to get cell service to, like, communicate with me, so I need that Wi-Fi.
Few rapid fire questions for you. We're finally going to get to them. I know, unless you got a drop, I want to be respectful of your time. But you, I'm just going to run into them here. Your biggest win? Broad question. Have
My
fun with it.
biggest win. So we didn't get to talk too much about customer experience, but I've got a fun story about that. I consider it a good win. I don't know if it's my biggest win, but property out in Colorado, up in the mountains. Bear came by one night, got in the trash. Trash was everywhere. It actually jumped on the guest's car, broke the guest's windshield. Um, Guest woke up, saw trash all over the yard. Obviously, it's a terrible experience. They, felt like they needed to clean it up and were upset about that. They walked over their car, so their windshield was cracked, and they were pissed. And I would be pissed too. That sucks. Like, you're on vacation, your windshield gets cracked. So they thought, someone was walking by and threw rocks over the fence and smashed the car. And I had to, I went out there to the property. It's an hour and a half away. Chatted with them, helped clean everything up. We found some evidence of, potentially bear, but very clearly what it was. Um, and had to talk them down and help them figure out how to continue to enjoy their vacation, right? This is one of those scenarios that could easily be, oh, this is a terrible property and, beware the bears and all this kind of stuff. um, and was able to, chat with them for 30 minutes. I got to know them. We kind of were talking like we were friends, and ended up going back home and got everything set. About 6 hours later, I get a call from them. And anytime you get a phone call from a guest as opposed to an Airbnb message, you're always scared. You're like, oh, shit,
Yep.
what's happening? And so this cabin is next door to another cabin that I run. and the guests next door brought a dog, a German Shepherd, big German Shepherd. The guests who had the bear problem had a Chihuahua. And so the German Shepherd ran into the other yard and was barking at the Chihuahua and the whole family through the glass window, and they like couldn't get out of the house. And the guests with the German Shepherd didn't tell me they were bringing a dog. We've got pet fees, etc. So I had to reach out to the other guests and say, hey, understand you've got a dog. That's not a problem. We do allow pets, but there's a pet fee and you need to make sure they stay in the yard because now this other guest is, you know, feeling endangered and had to handle that from both sides, right? Because now you're calling one guest out for doing something that they were trying to sneak under, and you need to bring that up with them in a way that doesn't make them mad, right? And try and get a little retribution. And then you've got this original guest who's already had other shit happen 6 hours ago, and now more shit's happening, and like just this experience gets worse and worse and worse for them. Um, and so I just made sure I stayed in constant communication with both of those guests throughout the rest of the time. We sent them, I think, cookies, and it was summer. So we sent the one family popsicles because they had kids, which is a great way to like try and build some goodwill back. But ultimately, what happened was the guests with the broken windshield and the bear and was getting barked at by the dog. They left us a 5-star review and actually made us dinner. They made extra dinner for us because of how we handled the situations. They thought we were there for them. They thought we were on their team. We understood what their concerns were. We fixed them right away. And it was one of those scenarios that should have been a 1-star review and it turned into a 5-star plus they bought us dinner. And so that was really cool. That was special. I think that's a big win, right? Turn something around like that.
Those are your opportunities to get amazing reviews, I think, when there's an issue and you go above and beyond to fix it,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And in some ways, it's never fun when it's happening, but afterwards you look back and you're like, oh, that was kind of fun. That's how you know you're in the right line of business, I think, because it sounds like when that was going on, you were probably at your wits' end, right?
I was
But
actually
and
supposed to be going on vacation with my family that day. Uh,
oh no,
so we did a pit stop like an hour out of the way with my family in the car while I was handling all this stuff. And then when the dog stuff happened, we had drove a couple hours away and we're staying at another place. Uh, but that's the quality of customer service you need to provide. Um, it's important. Like anyone can get a 5-star review. It's not that hard. You just have a guest who doesn't really care. It's really easy to get booked in peak season. Everybody wants a place to stay. It's fine. It's easy. If you put in the effort, you will have bookings during slow season and you will turn 1-star reviews into 5-star reviews. If you can't handle those bad guests, if you can't handle those negative situations, you will not succeed in this industry because that's where the difference is made.
couldn't say it any better than that. So that sounds like it might be a scenario that I could go into my next question with, but I had nightmare story. You have a
Nightmare.
nightmare story. Yeah. Do you have any, or maybe let's think of a time when you thought, hey, I want to go back to my job and have a boss again.
No, I've never
No,
thought that.
never. Okay. Next,
Never
next
thought.
up in a nightmare story.
Um, I think, man, I do a really good job of blocking those out. I'm very goal oriented. Like, hey, here's the problem. This is how we fix it. Okay, it's fixed. Now what's next, right? So I have a short memory for those things, which is good because I get less stressed, but bad because you don't always learn as much as you can. Maybe I might be going
It
through one
sounds
right now.
sounds like a superpower.
Maybe, yeah, I guess. I might be going through one now. I actually had well, one of my new clients is fully renovating a condo. And I made the mistake of offering too many services to them. So uh, I am basically their GC project manager. I'm not licensed. I'm just trying to keep them on time, and I'm his eyes on the ground and all that kind of stuff. Um, this guy lives in Australia. He doesn't live in the US. He has some business to do in Australia, and he stops off at the Denver airport to come visit the property and see how progress is going yesterday. Uh, the contractor who I recommended, who I work very closely with, and is 120% reliable, for some reason was a no-show. And he's the guy who's doing all the work. He's the guy who's got the teams. He knows all the details. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, I I don't know what to say. Like, I'm stuck. This guy's flying in from Australia to see his property. And
And you're
so I'm
meeting him
just
there with the contractor?
who's not there. And
Yeah,
his
so
phone is
so you
off.
guys are both there and he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And luckily I went to the property the day before and was chatting with the contractor, and uh we've worked on other projects before. Again, I love this guy. He's awesome. But this is a curveball you just can't get around, right? Just something's wrong. So I spend the next 2 or 3 hours walking through the place with the owner, talking about it as much as I can. And we're behind on schedule because there's a giant storm out here in Colorado. It knocked out power for a couple days. Um, Among the standard, we're tearing things out. Oh, we found this issue. We need to fix that too, type stuff. Uh, and I'm stressing the whole time, absolutely the whole time, because there's nothing you can do, right? The owner keeps on asking, well, where's the contractor? Where's the contractor? I want to see him. Where is he? Um, that was tough. Again, customer service. It's not a guest, but your client's your customer. You got to keep them happy. You got to make sure that the project's moving forward, and you don't have this support on the side. Um, Luckily, I was able to get a hold of the guy last night. We talked through some stuff. He had some emergencies that he was handling, which uh, completely justifiable. I support him 100%. Uh, and he's meeting with the owner today. The owner stayed a little bit longer. But in those scenarios, you need to be able to be on your toes. You need to keep your professionalism about you. And you need to make sure you keep the relationship going on both ends, right? You can't throw anyone under the bus. You can't say things that are assumptions. You just need to be honest upfront and provide perspective and solution, as opposed to let yourself get taken over by these fear emotions and negative feelings. And uh, yeah, that sucked. Yeah, you're left alone to do this, and you're on your own, and you don't have the information. That was a pretty big nightmare scenario for those 6 hours, because
Yeah, that
you're
sounds like it.
yeah.
Yeah, so I remember
So
you were going back and forth with this guy when we were actually in Montana,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we were kind of working through. I don't think I ever really followed up to see what exactly happened with it, but now I know. But so going back in time, would you have done anything a little bit differently? Try to set a different expectation, or just put your contractor in touch with the investor, or would you
Yeah,
just
I'm not a GC, I'm not a construction guy. I should not have offered that as part of my service, right? Um, he wanted to include it because I offered to help him with design of everything, and in his mind, that's the same thing, right? The furniture you buy and how you build the place are all in one. It's not. I was trying too hard to appease a customer that wanted something I don't offer. Uh,
you were trying to get the client, which
yeah,
is
I was trying
commendable,
to get the client,
right?
which is fine. And it's important to get clients, especially when you're starting out, but it's important to get the right clients. And, this guy and the property he wanted to do, how he wanted to run it, checked all my boxes, but what he wanted me to do was more than I should have done. Um, and I actually ended up letting a client go a couple weeks ago as well, because you need to have a good fit, and that's okay, right? It was a good client that I let go. We were getting a decent amount of revenue from them. It was helping me build things up financially, but the amount of work going into the property was more than I should have taken on. Uh, Maybe we'll talk about this later. They had a cat they kept on the property. Uh,
So this was the one that
And
was in Boulder, right? That it was like a
yeah,
seasonal. Yeah. So
yeah.
they were a part time resident.
They were they had to be there 6 months in the day. They had neighbors that already hated them. So I had to deal with the city doing inspections all the time and accusing us of running illegally, and we were not by any means. Always do everything legally, by the way. Like, don't put yourself at risk. That would be stupid. Um, and so we're getting hit by the county, we're getting hit by the neighbors. The owners are particular, justifiably, because it's their primary home, right? So things have to be a certain way, and guests don't always want things to be that way. There's a different experience you provide. So it was difficult for the cleaners to always have a different set of rules to follow every turn because they don't have that repeatable operation. The cat, they had 30 live plants that were constantly shedding leaves and you're dropping dirt everywhere. Like, it was just not within what I should have taken. And we had a great relationship. They're great people. We still talk. They're recommending me to a couple other people. And, we just decided to part ways because it wasn't the right fit. And that's okay. Sometimes again, two steps forward, one step back. You get two clients, you let one go. It happens.
So I know you mentioned you're not a big podcast guy. Are you an audiobook person or yeah, I'm looking for a podcast or a book recommendation.
Yeah. So I've got a couple. Podcasts, my education in this industry is Build Short-Term Rental Wealth with Bill Faith. Uh, he's a great resource. Go through that. He tries to keep things short. But he's got a couple podcasts that are 30 minutes. I love the 10-minute ones where you actually get one nugget and you can learn from that and then execute on it. And he does a pretty good job of keeping things short and relevant. And he has a lot of content throughout all the different aspects of this industry. So highly recommend that, obviously. But I ran across STR Home Financing with Jeff Chisholm, who's a lender, and that was super helpful for me when I was first starting out because you learn a lot in this industry about design and customer service and the tech stack. No one talks enough about the financing side of things. And listening to him and what different types of options are out there for loans and how you handle them and the impact that a certain down payment can have or buying points can have on your rate and your long-term viability for a property was super helpful. So I haven't listened to it lately, but if you're starting out and you're thinking about buying, listen to his stuff, at least his first, 20 episodes or so.
Yeah, and those are like
So
10-minute episodes too. That's a good one.
yeah. So I like those. As far as books, uh, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is a book I read a long time ago. I just think that's a good book for life. Uh, the title kind of makes it sound like how to win friends. Like, are you tricking people into being your friends? But it's really not. It's a good book to remind you of how to be a good person. Like, no one wants to be a bad person. Nothing in the book is going to give you an epiphany, but it's going to remind you. And when you're reminded of something, then you implement it again. And I think that's a really, really good book for that. Very similar to Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That's a little bit more pointed to business side of things as opposed to just generally. And then I'm about to finish a book called Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard. Uh, this book is fun. It's a super easy read. It's a fiction with a focus on how to improve your customer service and make sure you're providing, in my case, guests and owners with the quality that they deserve and how to make sure they're your raving fans. It's a fiction. This guy walks around with a fairy godmother or fairy godfather on his shoulder while he's trying to fix his company. But the lessons you get from it, again, are really good reminders about what you need to be doing on a daily basis to continue to be successful. And that's valuable because it's easy to get distracted by all of the things and forget about kind of your core principles and how you want to build your business with these values.
All right, Brandon, thanks so much for your time today. How can everybody get in touch with you if they're interested in some property management services?
Yeah. We've got a website, myadventurenest.com. You can go on there, see some of the properties we've done in the past, look at how we've improved other people's situations. You can book a meeting with me directly through that site, or if you want, you can just shoot me an email, Brandon Wood, BrandonWood at myadventurenest.com. Love talking about the space. I love giving advice. There's so much to learn, even when you're helping someone else. So, if you just want some tips, reach out to me. If you're looking for a property manager, I'd love to help you throughout that process, whether it's me or someone else I could recommend. But yeah, let's keep these conversations going and let's get some more people involved and help everyone we can.
Absolutely, Brandon. Well, thanks so much for being our first guest on the Peak Season podcast. We appreciate everybody that tuned in, and everybody have a great day. Take care.